What's going on, everybody? This is TheKevChambers, actor, stuntman, and pretty much everything else that I can get my hands involved in. So today what I wanted to do is I wanted to teach every single one of you how to cut up some vegetables. The main reason on why I'm doing this is, one of those days when I finally decide to settle down and have a beautiful wife and we decide to have children. I know I'm going to be super busy with my career. I won't have a lot of time to spend with my kids as much as I'd like to, even though I don't have any kids, but I figure this would be a nice segue if they miss me and they want to learn how to cut vegetables. This is a perfect way. We're going to be cutting up a lot of different things, and this is going to be for either my sons, my daughters, or whatever, in the words of Dave Chappelle, whatever pronouns you feel appropriate or whatever you feel comfortable with. We're cutting up a lot of vegetables. I'm actually going to be making another video of my homemade chicken soup. All this stuff super healthy for you. Try to be as healthy as I can with the acting and stunts and how physical I am. But today we are going to be cutting up celery, carrots, asparagus, broccoli, zucchini and squash, corn, onions, mushrooms, green onion, and one of my favorites, cilantro. Actually, all these vegetables are pretty much my favorites. Before you do anything, whenever you get vegetables, make sure you wash every single one of them. Wash them all. You never know what dirt or pesticides or insecticides, whatever it's called nowadays, you never know what's on your food. So you have to make sure that you go ahead and wash everything. So I'm gonna be doing that off screen so you guys don't have to watch it. It's gonna be boring anyway. And there really isn't a specific way how to wash these. I mean, some people like to go all crazy and they'll buy like vegetable and fruit wash where, you spray it and then you wash it after water. Other people like to use vinegar. Honestly, for me, I'm just lazy. So I literally just wash it underneath cold water. Make sure that at least with different items like cilantro and things that are more leafy, what I like to do is after I wash it, I'll squeeze it so I squeeze all the water off of it. That way I'm making sure I'm getting everything off. Onion, like this, you won't have to wash because you're peeling off the layers. Green onion, you will have to, because we're cutting off this portion, but then we're gonna eat the rest of that. The other thing, stems at the end, like on carrots, or on the ends, like celery, or even depending on your asparagus. See how there's different colors? We wanna stick with the green right here, but with this, we'll cut this off like right about there. And then obviously, same with zucchini and the squash, we'll cut off this portion and we'll eat the rest of that. Corn is a little different because you have to remove the husk, which are these outer layers, and once you remove that stuff, you remove all of the threads that are on it. I don't know exactly what they're called. I just call them threads because that's what they remind me of. And then we'll cut off this bottom piece as well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment. Let me know if you want to see any more of this stuff. Again, I'm also going to be making a video of me making my homemade chicken soup, which is super, super good. The things that you will need will be cutting knife and a cutting board. The biggest thing that I say with any type of knives, eventually you will cut yourself. You can't really avoid that. You can do the best that you can, meaning, you take your time, you're really slow, but for an example, if you're in a rush and you're trying to make a lot of food real quickly, accidents are going to happen. The thing that I always think about whenever it comes to weapons in general is the weapon is an extension of yourself. All the things that I've learned from martial arts. As long as you take your time, you're not going to cut yourself. Eventually it will happen, but that's the risk that you take when you're cooking. And it's not like you're going to cut your finger off, because the moment you slice yourself or on your hand, you feel it immediately. You stop, you clean it, take care of the infection, put a band-aid on it, whatever. And I prefer to have a longer knife like this because what I'm going to teach you all is a technique where you are sliding back and forth on the cutting board. That way you don't have to be chopping it like this. And there are other ways of chopping and dicing, but for this, it's just gonna be a specific cutting of the vegetables. And you can cut the vegetables in many different ways too. I'm gonna go with more of slicing for the specific meal that I'm going to be making. If you want a video on any other techniques or other things that I know that I've learned over the years, just let me know in the comment section. We have our vegetables washed, as you can see. Now I'm gonna just quickly show you how to remove the husk off of corn. It's really simple. See how they have their little layers? Just peel those off. That's it. You keep peeling it off until you get to, remember when I said the threads? These are the threads that I'm talking about. I don't know if they're called that, but that's what, again, they just remind me of that. And again, you just pull it all back. So then you go ahead and that little bottom piece that we originally had right here, just pull that bad boy off. That's all you gotta do. After you remove all the threads as best as possible, then you wash it. Again, same thing. As you can see, this corn's a little old. We're gonna salvage it. We're going to make it work. Again, just keep pulling back. Pull that off. See, very easy. Remove all of them threads. And now we're gonna wash it. My future children, I am sorry. You shouldn't eat that. That's way too bad. That's too much. You know what I mean? It's all trying to survive on itself. It doesn't look that good in comparison to this one. I mean, this one isn't all that much better because it should look like this right here, all the way around. But because I waited too long, yeah, we throwing this one out. Bye. Okay, everybody, the focus isn't on me. It's on how to cut this, all right? One of the things that I like to do with my corn is I will literally hold it up like this, and then I'll take the blade, hold it nice and tight here. What I like to do is I'll put my fingers like this and my thumb on top. What I like to do is I'll hold it, 4 fingers, thumb on top. What I'll do is I'll hold the corn up like this and I'll put the blade on top right here. Have my fingers, make sure they are out of the way, and slowly just go ahead, cut it like this. Now, this kind of goes everywhere as you just saw. One of the things that you can do to prevent this, what I'll do is I'll take the bowl that I have and I will put that bowl on top of the cutting board like this, make some room. And then now I can do this, and I can kind of control it more. Because now the pieces aren't going all over the place. Notice I only went halfway, because then when we turn it around and flip it on the other side, I can still have the control of cutting all of this corn off. And what I'm doing is I'm applying a little bit of pressure downward and just cutting the corn just like this. Now it's going to take some time, it's going to take practice, but eventually you will get it down. Just be careful not to cut yourself or the bowl or anything. And voila, there is our corn. Again, I'm not the focus. The focus is how to cut all this up, right? With a mushroom, we only have 2 mushrooms. I like to go ahead and instead of having it on the bottom, I'll put it on its head, just like this. That way it's easier. And what I like to do is I like to put my fingers like this. Now this is a technique that my brother taught me. If you do this correctly, you will never cut your fingers. Sometimes you might do this. No, don't do that. If you hold it, and this is why Kung Fu is life, you're holding it like this, right? So then what ends up happening is when you have your knife and you put it down, notice the knife is on my fingers. Since I have them tucked in like this, I'm never gonna cut myself. And all I gotta do is just put the blade down here, so then you're seeing it like this from this perspective, and just cut down. And I come up, and I cut down. Up, and down. Up and down. Now, depending on how thin you want your mushroom pieces, you could go really thin with this. Make sure that you have a sharp knife as well. See the difference in thickness? Again, all you're doing is just doing this. And I'm coming up so you can see it as I do a rocking motion. Then when I hit halfway mark, go ahead, do this again. And that is our sliced up mushrooms. So, same thing. Now, if you want to speed it up as you continue to practice, you can just do this right here. Notice that rocking motion again. It's going back and forth, back and forth. That's why I like the longer blade, so I can do that rocking motion. Now, aesthetically, the mushrooms aren't as nice as these ones, right? But again, it all depends on what you're doing and if you have the time or not. Now we're gonna cut up the zucchini and squash. Remember those end pieces I was telling you about? Again, practice it just like this. boom. Same one, boom. When you decide to become faster, or you want to save time, or you become more skilled at this, you can literally combine more than one item together and do the same thing. Now this time, because I have this, I'm not going to go ahead and do that motion of going back and forth, but I'll show you it anyway again here. Now what's really nice about this technique, again, you can get these cuts of yours to be very, very thin. I really like when you have a thin cut because it's not as strong, and there's major differences between this guy and this guy. If you don't like that rocking motion, or if you don't feel like that's comfortable for you, then you could literally hold the vegetable this far away, so you know you're not gonna cut your fingers, and you could literally just do this. See it, cut down, see it, cut down, see it, cut down. It's whatever you are feeling comfortable with when you are first starting off. Now, sometimes you can hold the knife like this, sometimes I'll switch it up and I'll have my thumb right here, or sometimes I'll have my finger on top. Again, it just all depends on how you are feeling and what you are feeling. Play around with your hand position to see if you like this, if you like this, or if you like this. Just play around with it. I've noticed for myself, I like to have this position. Again, that same technique, fingers like this, so I know I'm not going to cut myself. Thin, thick, whatever your preference is when you're making food. Okay, now we're going to cut up one of my favorite vegetables, broccoli. When I was a kid, I used to call them trees. Some people don't really like the stem, but I like to try to incorporate that into my cooking and food. So just like how we cut up the zucchini and the squash and even the mushroom, we're going to do the same thing here. Just cut it up nice. Now what's nice about the smaller stems, so to speak, you can see it's a lot easier to cut it up, and then you can be eating that as well. So then when we get to this portion, it all just depends on how you want to cut it up. I like putting it on its head, cut it once, cut it twice, and then you have 4 pieces like that. I've seen, and I have done it other ways too. I've cut up my broccoli in other ways. Maybe I just want it and have it be like little trees. So then, just break them off. Bam. Now you have little portions, and then again, the stem's up, cut it down. And again, play around with what you think is going to work best for you, whether it's on the head or on the stem like this. Easy peasy. Now is the time to cut up our green onion. We're going to remove these little guys. Bam. Now what I like to do with my green onion is I like to cut it about here, because this portion I'll use as a garnish, as my topping. This portion I'll actually cook it all the way through. So again, to save time, cut it in half. Like I said, when it came to the squash and the zucchini, you can line them up. So then you can just do this. If you want to, you can bunch them together. Now these, same thing. Let's move on to our celery. If you don't want these, you don't have to have them. I usually will just pull them off. And then again, the ends, all of these cut off as well. Sometimes if the ends are a little too bad like that, I'll cut that off as well. Put them all together like this. And again, if you don't want to, do it the way I was showing you of cutting it faster. Just take your time with it. Here's another technique that I didn't share with you all, is instead of rocking back and forth, you can literally just have the tip of the blade down and you can just go cut it down and feed the celery through. Now the only reason why I don't like doing that one sometimes is because if your blade isn't sharp enough, sometimes this will happen to your celery or anything else that you're cutting. In particular celery, because it's like has all those lines in it as well. But if you do that rocking back and forth, you don't have to worry about that. We are moving on to our asparagus. With asparagus, I'm not going to cut it and slice it up like I have with our green onion and celery or our squash and zucchini, but I will get rid of these being a little purple. Those are a little bit harder to eat if you don't cut those off. You want to kind of go through your asparagus and just see what has it and what doesn't have it. This one, it's probably going to be the easiest thing that we are going to cut up because we're not cutting it up into slices. We're going to be cutting it up in sections. Put all the asparagus same direction. Then what we do is we're just going to cut it up in thirds. 1, 2. 1, 2. All this asparagus is actually going to go into the chicken soup. Actually, let's make it even better. Now we have all these different sections, and that's what we'll throw into our soup. Our carrots are next. Cut off these ends. What I recommend when you're first starting off is just do one at a time. And again, that same technique, just like this. Now, I do apologize that the camera's moving. I don't have a DP with me, and so I'm doing this all by myself. And if the camera is moving and it kind of feels like you're literally in it with me, I do apologize. I don't know how else I can fix that. Just gonna have to deal with me. What I may do is I may remove the audio and then just speed this up. But then again, I don't know, because if you want to get the practice, then you can literally practice with me and you can become better at this. So then that way you know how to cut up vegetables. And there's other vegetables that I'd like to cut up. Maybe I might do it in another video. I also would like to teach you how to cut up a watermelon or a pineapple. Now, with our cilantro, in order to save time, because cilantro, as you can see, can be very long, what I like to do, one, I like to make sure I get rid of all this crap. Two, the other thing that I'll do is I will literally put them together so it's a little smaller, and then you can really go at it. Just keep feeding it in and feeding it in. Then if you have any longer pieces that didn't get cut or got caught in the way, if you want to go over it, you totally do all this to it as well. Okay, with our onion, we want to remove its layers. All these layers, and usually I do try to save my onion. So after I cut it in half, the one that has all of the little, I guess where it sprouted from, I don't even know what it's called at this time, I'm brain dead. I'll save that end because I'm using one full onion. Let's remove this outer layer. What I'll do is I'll cut this end, boom, those little sprouts. Cut that end as well. Now I can easily remove this top layer and remove this one as well. A cool way that you can get really thin slices on anything that you cut is if you have it down like this and you use the blade to just cut underneath it. Look at how thin that cut is. So you can do it that way, or again, go back to what we were working on, which is holding it here and you cut and you cut. Now what I like to do, see how that's uneven to me? I'll end up cutting this. Just really be careful, as I almost cut my fingers. Like I said, it's part of the game. But you can get it really nice and thin. I don't know what chemical onions have in it, but especially when you are dealing with white onions, they'll make you cry. If a scientist or, just Googling it, because it will tell you the reasoning on why it makes us cry, you can let me know in the comment section below. This technique that I'm doing right now, again, coming underneath it, then at the last second, I lift it up so I can literally just cut right through it all. A lot of people like to cut up their onions differently. For this soup that I'm making in particular, I like to just cut it in half. So then that way you have this nice little rainbow arch. Because I could dice it up, which I'll show you what that quickly looks like on this one right here. What I would do is I would cut it again and again. So that's like 4 cuts right there. Then you come on the side and you dice it up. So then you have 2 different types of a cut for your onion. And that is it. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if you want to see any more advanced techniques when it comes to cutting up things like dicing and chopping and cutting up things really fast. To anyone who's learning this, please be safe. Take your time. There's no need to rush. There were moments where I was rushing just because I'm trying to save some time. If you are, I'd say, under the age of 16, then definitely please make sure you have your parents with you so that they can supervise this. To my future children who are learning this, make sure mom's in the room so that she can make sure that everything's going smooth and you don't, mess up anything. I know I'm gonna have waiters and butlers and stuff like that, so you won't have to cook until you feel like it. But remember, this is my money, not your money. These are life skills that I'm trying to teach you right now. When you have to go out into the big bad world, it's not gonna be as hard and you won't have to learn how to do this on your own. Ideally, I'd like to be there to teach you this, and who knows, maybe this will turn into something where it'll be a good reminder of what to do, or when I'm gone and dead, you can watch it to have some good memories. Beyond that, thank you everyone on YouTube, family, friends, subscribers, fans, everybody. I appreciate and love you all. Tune in for my next video, which is going to be my homemade chicken soup.